When you think of Hollywood, what comes to mind? Probably fame, fortune, a lifestyle that feels, well, pretty far from anything religious. And yet, there's this really fascinating trend happening right now, where some of the biggest stars out there are publicly embracing faith, and a lot of times, they're going completely against the grain. So, let's dive into what's really going on here. And this question, man, it just gets right to the heart of it all. See, for a celebrity, talking about your faith isn't just some personal choice. It's a massive professional gamble. We're talking careers, friendships, millions of dollars. It all could be on the line. So, what is really driving this? Are they searching for some deeper meaning in a world that can feel pretty superficial? Is it a reaction to some kind of personal crisis? Or is it something else entirely? We're going to explore all of that by looking at the incredible stories of stars who made this profound choice. You see, for a lot of these stars, the journey doesn't start in a fancy church. Nope, it begins at their absolute lowest point. This first pathway we're going to talk about is all about crisis, where hitting rock bottom is the very thing that forces you to finally look up. Okay, so let's kick things off with a story that is just pure desperation. Before he was the iconic Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone was just a struggling actor facing a level of hardship that's almost hard to believe. I mean, just let that sink in. This wasn't just being short on cash. This was a soul-crushing kind of low. It was from that dark place that he wrote Rocky, a story he packed with his own faith. The movie literally opens with a shot of Jesus. But then, of course, fame came calling, and he admits he kind of lost his way for a while before coming back to the very faith that inspired his greatest creation. And then you've got Mark Wahlberg. His path was, well, just as wild. He went from being a rebellious kid with a so-called street education to an inmate being tried as an adult. And that last point, that's the turning point. He said it himself. When I heard the jail doors close behind me, I started praying right away. It was the absolute end of one chapter and the very beginning of a new one. Then Affleck's story, wow, it's just packed with this tragic irony. He spent his entire childhood watching his own father battle alcoholism, and he swore to himself that he would never, ever go down that same road. And yet, despite all his success, he found himself caught in the exact same vicious cycle. So what was it that finally broke that cycle? For Affleck, it was the moment he looked into his own daughter's eyes and saw the exact same fear that he used to have for his own dad. That suffering, that mirror moment was the breaking point that finally pushed him towards getting help and returning to church. We all know Jim Carrey as this comedic genius, right? But behind that smile is a story of just profound pain. After the tragic death of his girlfriend in 2015 and all the public accusations that came after, he was left completely broken, just trying to find some sort of meaning in all the wreckage. But here's the thing. Instead of just letting all that bitterness and anger completely take over, Carrey chose a different path. He chose what he calls the gate of forgiveness, and that, for him, led to grace. He started channeling his pain into his art, even painting pictures of Christ and talking openly about finding purpose through his suffering. All right, but here's the thing. It doesn't always start with this huge, dramatic crash. For some celebrities, faith isn't some sudden lightning strike, but a much more gradual, lifelong journey of just wrestling with what they believe and what it means to live with integrity. So yeah, this is a total shift in gears for us. We're moving away from that sudden earthquake of a crisis to the slow, steady growth that takes a lifetime. This is a totally different kind of faith, one that's built not on a single event, but on a foundation that's been there all along. Okay, this is one of those legendary what-if stories in Hollywood. Tom Selleck was offered the role of Indiana Jones, a role that would have made his career instantly. But he'd already given his word that he would do the TV show Magnum P.I., so he walked away. He walked away from what would become one of the biggest movie roles of all time, because, as he explained later, he trusts the Lord to direct his steps. Now that's faith in action. In Denzel Washington's journey, it really shows us that even a super powerful spiritual moment doesn't mean the road ahead is going to be easy. He talks about being filled with the Holy Ghost when he was a young man, this totally supernatural, once-in-a-lifetime experience. But he's also really open about the fact that, at the time, he just wasn't ready to live that life. His whole journey has been about slowly growing into that incredible calling he felt all those years ago. And then you have someone like Martin Scorsese, where faith isn't really a destination at all. For him, it's a constant struggle, a relentless question he's always asking. He actually uses his films, from The Last Temptation of Christ all the way to Silence, to explore his own spiritual questions, believing that you can't really have faith without also having doubt. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the why, right? But what about the how? How does this internal belief actually show up in the real world? This next part is all about the tangible ways faith is reshaping the lives and careers of these stars. And look, this isn't just them talking the talk. We're seeing real, tangible changes. You've got actors like Jennifer Garner and Rob Schneider choosing roles with more meaning and purpose. Stars like Nicole Kidman are talking openly about their faith in interviews, even when it might not be the popular thing to do. And for so many of them, it means a real return to church and putting a huge new focus on family. And this right here, this just shows you the level of discipline we're talking about. Mark Wahlberg doesn't just believe something in theory, he puts it into practice. He carves out about 20 minutes every single day for prayer and devotionals. He says it's the most important part of his day, even more important than those crazy workouts he's famous for. You know, this quote from Jennifer Garner, it's just so powerful. While she was filming the faith-based movie Miracles from Heaven, she had this huge light bulb moment. She realized that faith wasn't something her kids were just going to pick up through the air. She had to be active, she had to be intentional about it. And that movie, it totally reignited her own faith and led her to start taking her family back to church every week. So as we look at all these stories, this one common thread starts to pop up. A huge, fundamental shift in their purpose. For these stars, the goal isn't just about being in the spotlight anymore. It's about finding real, true significance. So when you boil it all down, we've really looked at two main paths, haven't we? There's the dramatic one born out of crisis that goes from rock bottom to redemption, and then there's the quieter, steadier walk built over a lifetime that goes from doubt to devotion. And this quote from Mark Wahlberg, it just perfectly sums up this whole new way of thinking. Fame isn't the end goal anymore. It's a platform. It's a tool that they feel they have to use for a higher purpose, to help people, to inspire people. There's this new sense of responsibility that comes along with their faith. And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As these celebrities figure out how to live out their faith right in front of all of us, they're kind of redefining what success even means. It really makes you wonder, what's the more significant part to play?